Let's get started, okay? The High Priestess and the Queen of Pentacles. This says 21 to me. I see the end, all right? And I think that it's pointing me to the beginning to help me understand the process. Divine looks at every divine masculine where they need to be. Okay, that true divine masculine energy where you guys are together, you're happy. I'm not just talking about reunion. I'm talking about years into your reunion, years into your mission work together. What does that person need to be for you? Who do they need to be for you in the spirit, and who do they need to be for you in the physical? And once divine can identify that, which I think probably happened long before we even incarnated, but once divine identifies that, divine will work backwards to say there will be an awakening point, and at the beginning of that awakening point, I'm going to start pointing them in the right direction so that they can be who they're supposed to be at the end. So what I'm really seeing right now is the fool's journey in reverse. Interesting. When's the last time you spoke to your divine masculine, friends? If you've been no contact, how many weeks, months, years, how long has it been? And then death. I mean, wow, wow, wow. Okay. So we are doing an ego death reading. Right off the bat, we get death energy. I don't think that there's a coincidence here, though, with the imagery, because something about this seems like the divine masculine, everything that they are in terms of their facade, the bravado, or let's just call it their ego, right? Everything that their ego decides to put on display is almost in opposition to who the divine feminine is. Isn't that weird? But it makes total sense. It may even be why we can see through, we can see into, we can tell this is my person, and yet there's another side of it that says, how could you be my person but also be everything you are that goes against everything I am? How is this happening? And many divine feminines start to realize something. Our divine masculine is playing dress up. Our divine masculine is putting on a false persona or wearing a mask, and it's to help them feel safe or comfortable or avoid guilt, or right, it's some ego driven reason. But this is like, I mean, giving it to us so plain. And I think this says that when the death happens, it's not just one ego death, because it's not just one ego issue. And sometimes I think there could even be some spirits involved, a spirit of heaviness, a spirit of depression, or even just call it an evil spirit, a karmic spirit. There's a lot of stuff. And I think what this says is it's really about halfway through the journey that the divine masculine's ego death happens. But I think that there's a point that's being made here that says we need to understand the person we're looking at in the future, right? All those years in the future. That person is not made halfway through the journey. They're not made the moment the ego dies. There still has to be the rebirth and the renewal and the refreshing and the growth afterwards to come into their true nature. So, okay, we're being given very clear context, and I think that's for good reason. I think divine really wants to help someone understand this today. So, okay, one more, and the Seven of Cups. Ay, ay, ay. I think the divine masculines tend to be very overwhelmed, tend to avoid their emotions. And so if they're always overwhelmed and they're avoiding their emotion, I think that's why they just never tap in at all, which seems to be where they would get the information they needed to be more, what would you call that? Like more hands-on in their own shift, more hands-on in their own journey. So they're always shocked and confused when something happens. They're always so confused at what's going on in their life, because it's like, well, I'm not attuned or aligned enough to be able to understand what's happening. So I'm going to run from it. And it's like, but if you had decided to pursue the wisdom, if you had gotten your emotions under control to where you could understand things and feel your way through things and not be so triggered by things, well, divine masculine, you'd be a different person. And you wouldn't always feel like life was up against you. So, okay, wow. We're getting some deep understanding just from the energy. Oh my goodness gracious. All right. What do we need to know overall about this? The King of Swords. The primary shift that must occur is in the battlefield of the mind. The divine masculine must change their mind. And I think it's like, well, duh, Grace. And it's like, but hold on. Why is this being brought to our attention? Why is it that we're being told the divine masculine has to change your mind? That's how you know that the ego death has been completed. That's how you know that the person, oh, hold on, I'm hearing, that's how you know it's stuck. What is that? So that's how you know that they're not going to slide back into ego or something, I guess. But I think that's also how you know that your person is making strides, is that you don't, to say someone has to change their mind could be confusing for us if we're not in contact or if we're not speaking to them or if they tend to hold things back, because it's like, how do I know if their mind has changed? And it's like, well, start with the things you do know about them and see if those things have changed. Have they changed their mind, their way of thinking, their opinion, their beliefs about anything that is noticeable to you? That could be the start of saying, okay, something is changing in this person. What are we missing here? Temperance, balance. Okay. And that, wow. Okay. This is 15 total. So I think that this is trying to tell us something very important. You will see that they've changed their mind. But the reason that they will be aware and the reason that they are going to be able to have their rebirth and also experience the Empress, because there's something about this, it's the Temperance card, but it's making me think about them now seeing the end in the early stage. Them now looking at the future and saying, what's my ideal? What do I really want? I think that we will be able to tell when they decide to take a more balanced approach to life. We will know the ego death is complete. They will always, all of us all have an ego. We always will. But when you can control, tame, heal, etc., your ego, then it works with you and it's magnificent. Your ego can be such a beautiful thing when it's in its full light state. But until that happens, things get twisted. And I think that this is proof that the divine masculines, there's something about the approach they take to life when they're going in the wrong direction that absolutely goes in opposition with the divine feminine. We are divine beings. We are in the flow. We feel and we go that way. That's just who we've become. And the more we awaken, the more we come into our ascended state. We can't stop ourselves from doing that. Meanwhile, you've got someone who is willing to work themselves to the bone to go in the wrong direction. And when you start to see they're no longer just dissing you, dismissing you, ghosting, when they're no longer doing that stuff, but also I think when in their own life, the things that they do and the things that you want to do just kind of naturally start to line up, you will be able to see very, very clearly something is different. But for some of you, it won't be that simple. It won't be that easy. You're going to meet them at different points along the way. And so this reading is going to help us understand, what does that process actually look like? Let me go ahead and get this spread laid out for you. Who's here today? Hey, Keisha. Heather, Keisha, Risto, Roland, and SB. Oh, what's up, B-Psych? Okay, so I think we're good to go here. Let's start flipping some out. Whoa, 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 whoa. If I can see you, you can't come out. Okay, relax. That's fine. What do we need to know about our divine masculine? Whoa, ego death. Is that it? Okay. 6, 7, 2. All right. So no one has talked to their divine masculine ever before? Is that what I'm seeing? I asked a question, if anyone, when's the last time you spoke to your divine masculine? Is no one hearing? Well, I know you're here. All right, what do we got here? Hold on, let me just mix these up a little bit. And then let's go here and there. Yeah? Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of All right. And then we need runes. Yeah. This is not a pick a card reading. However, if I were you, I would pick a color. All right. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, black. I mean, this is white, but I think you get the point, right? Okay, cool. Okay. And there. All right. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. Overall, oh, please like this video. I don't remember if I asked already, but please do like this video. And if you're interested, I want to make sure I pin this. Pin message. I do have a few more sessions available this afternoon. And if you're interested in some of those calls that are like 1444, you just have to click the drop down menu. When you go to my website, it's only going to show you one product at a time on a page. But when you click that drop down, it shows you everything else that's available. And that's also how the different prices will show up. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start here. We're going to look at what I would consider before awakening. Okay. So here's the thing. Many of you will have met your divine masculine somewhere along here. It doesn't always have to be before awakening. But I will admit, I do think that we're today going to be focusing on an energy that is difficult. All right. So if your divine masculine was pretty awakened already when you met them and things really aren't that bad, and you just like to be a part of this collective because of the information that we share, because of the specialization that Mr. Lightwork and I have, because we're in union, like I totally get that. We do try to cater to our high level advanced divine feminines as often as possible. But in all reality, to cover the divine masculine, we need to access what more people in the collective are dealing with. And a lot more people are dealing with this question of, is my person just an F-boy? Is how, this is the question that kind of inspired this, okay? If you're telling me that my person would choose sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle, right? You get what I'm saying, right? If they decide to choose something very low vibrational, bottom of the barrel, women everywhere, men everywhere, whatever it is, whoever they are, why would they ever choose me then? If that's all they care about, how? You understand where I'm coming from. And I understand what this person was coming from. It was like, oh my gosh, that's a good question. How does a divine masculine who not only has the option to go out and be a playboy, playgirl, whatever, but also kind of like is good at it and is living the dream according to society, why would they want to change? And this is where I believe divine comes in. Divine says, it's not about what you want. There's all kinds of things that you probably wanted to do with your life that people wouldn't have approved of, or you knew, it wasn't the right path, so you didn't go that way. But there are people out there who say, no, I'm going to go the way I want to go. I'm going to go do it. Da, 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 da. And the thing is, that does not satisfy their soul. And so just because someone has spent more time in a space of being like physically gratified does not mean that their soul is being filled, and it becomes a very, very empty thing. That gratification only lasts for so long. We're going to start with the individuals who, whatever their gratification they're seeking, because it's not always sensual, okay? Whatever it is, what do we need to understand about their ego, about where they are? So we're going to give this very comprehensive look. And thank you again to everybody for liking this video. We have not been getting a lot of views on our lives. I haven't quite figured out the vertical thing, and nobody really likes the vertical, but that's the way to get us to people. So I don't know why they're not showing you them. I'm so sorry if you're watching this like 3 days later, but if you please like the video during our lives, I think it could help promote the video properly on YouTube. You guys know our channel is not a normal tarot channel, and it's not a normal twin flame channel. And a ministry like this that seeks to provide truth to people, it needs your support. So thank you so much to everybody for doing that. All right, we have the no contact, even down to the point of maybe there's some mental health issues. There could be, and when I say mental health issues, I don't mean like, oh, I mean like I've gone off the deep end and I need help. I need medication or I need treatment or I need to stop doing the thing that I'm doing to my body because it's messing with my brain. But I also think that that could be I am just depressed and I will not deal with it. I am in pain, or I'm in dealing with trauma, or I'm in a bad situation, and I'm just sitting in it, burdening myself with the idea that I can never change or move on, right? Okay, so we know divine masculine's in that place. What do we need to understand that divine will do to reach them? Okay, it's the number 11. And I think that this is telling us the divine masculine they see the signs and syncs. I just don't know if they experience the same way or even if they're the same signs and syncs. I will admit, I think all humans have a tendency to notice repeating numbers. I think that would be normal, right? But do I think that every divine masculine is out there looking up, what does it mean when I see 1111 a lot? No, I don't think so. I think that's more rare. I think that's more for intuitive people who know to look for symbolism, right? We've been interpreting our dreams. We've been going through the astrology and our relationships and all that. We know that there's information to be found. Divine masculines tend to not know. So I think what this is really saying is divine is just getting their attention. Do you remember that time in your life where maybe you didn't know how deep all this went? I'm not even talking about twin flames. I'm talking about like everything. You didn't know how deep all this went and you kind of found yourself going, well, that was weird. That was weird. Remember when you just thought it was all coincidence and deja vu? If that was ever you, that. And do you remember how annoying it was? Do you remember how annoying it was when your journey first started and you had no idea what it was and what was going on? And so this is not something where the divine masculine goes, that's strange. I'm seeing something again. It's something where it's annoying them and they don't know what to do about it. And so it begins to be a thing that scares them. It says, wait a minute, I told myself I wasn't going to pay attention to that anymore. And now there's a new way it's coming into my face. Some of us have been there before when we're trying to avoid signs and syncs a little bit because it's overwhelming. Like we're like, I can't, I'm just going to close my eyes. And then divine will like paste it on your eyelids. And you're like, are you kidding me? So what are we seeing? What is happening when we have someone who is in full on, just the lowest possible vibrational energy that a divine masculine can be in? And they're being bombarded with things from another realm that are freaky. They're seeing like glitches in the matrix. What do we need to know? Ooh, oh my goodness, the imagery here. So we have the Chariot. And I think that this is pretty wild because in the beginning of the reading, we were looking at the ringleader, the circus master, and we were talking about the Fool and how the divine masculine, while they are the Fool on the Fool's journey and all this different stuff, they dress up like the ringleader. So imagine you've just started your journey and instead of wearing your fool's clothes, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? That's how people, they all identify you and they say, hey, you're not from around here, are you? Instead, you go and you start to try to dress like everyone in the place, which means that you've put yourself in a weird position. See, if I go to a place and I don't work there, and someone comes up to me and says, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm like, do I look like I work here? I mean, I guess, yeah, I'll walk you over here. That weird kind of thing that happens. Well, that's one thing. It's another thing when you go in and you put on a smock and you're walking around the Walmarts. I'm just kidding, but you walk around Walmart and you're like, why are you asking me if I work here? And then you've got people handing you boxes and your manager's trying to put you and you're like, I don't work here. And they're like, get to work, and it's this weird situation. And the thing is now you're no longer in a position where you look like a customer. You look like you work there. That's what the divine masculine did to themselves. Divine allowed them to enter into this season and immediately put on a mask. And now everyone in this place that they're in looks at them and says, you belong here. What are you doing around here? And kind of just pushes them around, forces them to stay in situations. They're not allowed to ask questions. They're not allowed to come across as someone who shouldn't know. There's no help. There's no assistance. And there's no one saying, hey, you're not from around here. I think you might be in the wrong place. By immediately going into a situation like that and putting on all that costume and mask and the bravado and everything they do, it's making their life awful. it could have been a situation where someone guided them in the right direction, gave them good directions, or said, hey, let's see if you work, if you can handle this. But instead they went in so strong to a situation that was not theirs or was not meant for them, and they tried to immediately fit in. And I think that might have been some sort of tactic. It's making me think about Sleeping with the Enemy. I can't quite remember what that movie is about, but I get the gist of it, right? Isn't that the same thing as Enough? Aren't they like similar? Anyways, what I'm seeing is someone who has no other choice. So they run into a set of circumstances that is like, it is what it is, like it's like, I just have to do what I have to do. And they go in and it's like, I've moved to Alaska, so now I've got to pretend I'm a fisherman. I don't know how to fish. I don't know anything about boats. I don't know anything about cutting fish, or I don't know any of this stuff. But now this is a situation I've decided to throw myself into. I couldn't really think it through. I'm there. This seems to be what the divine masculine does. They go from place to place to place to place, trying to wear a mask. Inside is the fool within them, and then they're trying to think, what would these people want me to say? What would these people want me to do? And so we're not just talking about someone who's in the wrong place or in the wrong energy. We're talking about someone who is trying to be someone they're not, in a place they don't belong, and pushing so hard to prove themselves that they lose themselves in this whole lie. So I think this is why all divine can really do in this moment is hit them with signs and sinks back to back to back to back. And I think that there's something here where if you met your divine masculine in their absolute lowest, most unawakened state, it was because they needed to experience your energy in order for these things to be heightened. Here's the thing. If they don't typically look for 1111 or astrology or signs and da 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 da, if they don't care about rainbows or butterflies, or if a certain type of bird goes by, all the stuff that we're like, oh my gosh, it's a crow, it's a message, they don't do that, right? So if they don't do that, but divine has to find a way to mess with them, to kind of get into their mind, I think that meeting you and then letting them go about their business, do their thing, go run away in sadness, lead themselves off into pain and misery and rejection and all that, meeting you changes the next season of their life. Why? Because now divine can use you as the sync. Divine can use you as the sign. And I think that is so profound on this journey. I wish that we could see that more often, like in our divine masculines expressing why they're coming around, what they mean when they say, I've been thinking about you. But what I can tell you is when you get into union with your person, they're going to tell you all the weird stuff that happened. And guess what? If you're spiritually attuned, you get to explain all of this to them. Not just what they were experiencing or the signs or the things or whatever, but you also get to talk to them about why this was happening from the divine perspective. So we start off and we find out that if your person is just like an absolute F-boy, or they maybe used to be, or they're maybe you want to see them leave that behind, that what you have to understand is that's not who they are at all. And that's that I feel like we've got to sit with that, right? Like, man, okay, so if Mr. Lightwork was not an F-boy at all, what does that mean? Because if I saw Mr. Lightwork as the F-boy, and I'm like waiting for him to heal all these years, but because I'm assuming that he is the F-boy, right? Like, if it's like, if that's who you are, but it's like, no, if the whole time they were wearing a mask, if the whole time they were trying to prove themselves to the people in their life, and then they're not that at all. And I think that many of us need to integrate that. My person isn't actually the person they're pretending to be. Now, my brain kind of understands that. Okay, I can understand the idea of wearing the mask versus the person. But I guess maybe sometimes we think if a person wears the mask long enough, they become. But I don't think that's true. Not for true divine masculines. True divine masculines, I think the only reason they act like that is because of the pain, is because of the overwhelm. Okay. What else? So now I think this is when we move into the awakening. This is when everything that's been happening to them before this point has triggered them so much that they finally decide to start asking questions. And I will say, these two energies feel a lot more like where you would meet your person than anywhere in the end. I think it's very rare for a divine feminine to have the first meeting ever with their person in an awakened state. I think that if that happens, most likely you'll just go into union. You know what I mean? And so that's very important to consider as well, is most of us are meeting our divine counterpart at this period, which would indicate what? The need for the catalyst or the activation. So we already got confirmation of that here. So hold on, before we pick up the card, as we're looking at the divine masculine coming into the awakening, getting the foundations of what divine is sending in, what is it that we need to understand that divine is doing? Okay, I mean, this is pretty cool. Okay, so this is the lovers. This is love or the heart. Um, there's something about this that makes me feel like there is a willingness to be vulnerable as the desire to lay these foundations becomes bigger and bigger and bigger for them. I think that if you didn't meet them in this space, but you met them in the state of opening up their awakening, you may have very well been the confirmation. You guys know I'm estranged from my family. A few years ago, I went to go and drop off a goodbye letter to someone who I didn't get to say goodbye to, and they they caught me as I was on their property. They caught me. And long story short, this person, I'm Christian. This person, I'd been praying like my whole life that they would become a Christian. And when my grandmother passed, I was really like, okay, I really hope this person can become a Christian. It's just, that was my prayer. And I prayed that they had a little lady that made them spaghetti, because that's what my abuela was. And so when I went inside, and I tell them, this letter that I'm giving you, I just wanted to say goodbye. And they're like, no, why are you here? And I'm like, oh, like, sorry, like I'll leave. I was confused because they brought me inside, and they're like, no, like, why did you come right now? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I wanted to come 2 years ago, but I was too afraid. I chickened out constantly. And I wrote you this card like 6 months ago, and it's just been sitting in my house. I was too afraid to bring it to you. I don't have a car. I'm explaining all this stuff, and they're looking at me and their mind is blown. And you want to know why they were freaking out? Because 3 weeks prior, someone had told them that I was in a cult. Someone had found out that I did twin flame stuff, and the only thing they knew about it was the twin flames universe stuff. And my grandfather was so terrified for me that he had been like, freaking out about it. But what I didn't know is that he had just gotten saved. And so what was happening, I promise there's a point to this story. What was happening was, I could have went 2 years before that. I could have went 6 months before that when I wrote the card and just kind of tucked it away. I could have went a bunch of different times, but God made sure that I went to go see my grandfather a few months after he had gotten saved, so that I would get my prayer answered, but also a few weeks after he had just prayed with his entire men's group. And one of the men was there. I thought he was like a worker, but it was one of his men, the men from the men's group. He was with a witness and got to see his prayer come to fruition. I got to go tell my grandpa, I'm not in a freaking cult. And also, I'm fine. And da 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 da. And I love you. And I don't talk to him anymore. Like, it wasn't a reconnection all the way. It was a divine appointment. You are that for your person. Sometimes divine has to wait for a certain thing to happen so that the sign can come at the right moment. You have to appreciate that you're the sign sometimes when you really want to be the partner and the everything. But sometimes you are so profound just in who you are. You are so special in the things that you're going to say and the things that you're going to do, that you can come in and blow someone's mind. I was not there to return to my family. I was not there to turn my grandpa into a Christian. God had been doing that the whole time. I was simply there to confirm, and my grandpa caught me that day to confirm for me. It was pouring down rain. I was trying to run from my car. He came out and chased me, and he hugged me. It was such a movie moment. We both needed that healing. We both needed that moment. You and your divine masculine need those kind of opportunities to be able to look at each other and go, my God, this this can't be a coincidence. This can't be the passion with which he kept asking me, no, why did you come now? Was because my grandfather, some of you remember, he works for the military, like NSA clearances, like I can tell you, but I'd have to kill you, came out of his mouth constantly when I was growing up. He did tell me recently he worked on the Iron Dome, that I finally get to know some of the stuff he's done. So, it's like, wow, okay. My grandfather is a Mensa certified genius, just period. So coming into faith for people like that, even coming into the spiritual space for people like that is challenging because they're skeptical. But what God did for my grandpa that day was, it's something about string theory, the connectivity. He's like, well, so when I said the prayer to God, it actually, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever he needed in his mind to kind of have his moment, that's what happened. And if I had come at the wrong moment, or you know what's funny? I went and had lunch. I was chickening out the whole day. I went and had lunch down the street, waited for tacos for 30 minutes and said, oh, it's raining now, I probably shouldn't go. And I was like, girl, just get rid of this card so you can stop thinking about it. That is what this means when I say, if your person is willing to be vulnerable and divine can finally show them that sign, can finally come into their world and say, what about that? You can't deny that. And if you're a part of it, it doesn't matter if it takes more time. It matters to you because it's the time. I get that part. But what I mean is, if you're worried like, oh man, if they take too long, it must mean this or that. Not necessarily. It doesn't matter if it takes time. You were who you were meant to be for them in that moment. So we have the foundations of awakening. All right. They're starting to recognize that there is a center and they're not on it. They're seeing that there's more to life and that there are people they can trust. But what's happening in their world that divine is having to kind of fight against? King of Wands. And there's something about this imagery that absolutely makes me feel like they have already decided or already were married to an idea. Like my grandfather probably was married to the idea that there is no God and there's no creative design, which, hey, y'all know I'm not preaching. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just telling y'all a story I felt was relevant here. But think about that. If you're super smart, the smarter you are, the harder it is for you to even be happy because there's just so much messed up stuff. The more you know, the more you watch the news, it's harder for you to feel sane. And so I think the divine masculine kind of chose. They'd already made that decision, and this comes through as some stubbornness. This comes through as also obligation. It's almost like a part of them kind of believed that this was all that was available to them, or this was all that they were worth. And that kind of turned into, I've really got to make this work. And so if you met your divine masculine and they were like, let's say in a third party situation, but they were clearly not happy, or if they said they just couldn't be in a relationship, and really, again, if they were just full on in this F-boy energy, seeking the gratification, whatever's going wrong in their life that isn't working, that isn't fitting the thing that they're trying to accomplish, even if it's terrible, they've probably told themselves it's just they're not trying hard enough. And this is the weird part about being on this journey, is being able to see the humanity in their decisions when it feels almost like they don't have humanity towards us. So why should I have humanity towards them? Why should I care that my person is choosing to do this? And it's because hate, bitterness, misunderstandings, confusion, those are all huge walls, huge blockages preventing reunion. I don't know why that's a question, but I think it's because there's so many people out there who just fuss at the divine masculines and just, they see something like this and they go, ugh, what an idiot, or ugh, they're just like this, da, da, da. And it's like, but wait a second. If you were in their shoes, what happened to empathy? I understand it's difficult to have empathy with our divine masculines. That's where people need readers for this. You don't need a reader for that or this or this or this, but you need someone to help walk you through this energy. I do get that part. But I think that doesn't mean it's impossible. I think the more you fight that feeling of saying, you know what, they're just being a dick, they're just a douchebag, they're just being this, they're just being that, the more you fight past that and you say, okay, they're just being that, but why? How could they possibly? Not like, how could they possibly? But no, like, no, seriously, I have to answer this. And I want you to start challenging your brain in that way. Start challenging your brain by saying, I must answer my own question. If someone else had come to me and asked me, why would my person go into a situation, marry themselves to some person or even an idea that is clearly bad, and then commit to that and da 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 da, many of us could answer that very quickly by thinking back to a situation that we went into and thought it was the right thing to do, or we were really hard on ourselves or down on ourselves, we went into for whatever reason, and we stuck with it only to realize later that it wasn't wise, or we misunderstood something, or we were in the wrong place. Something about this is trying to break. Wow, this is the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. When I started this reading, it kind of felt like we were supposed to be touching on the F-boy energy, right? Like that kind of vibe from a person. I really thought it was just going to be like, that's why I even grabbed this deck and I was like, okay, yeah, not surprised to use the freaking circus deck. I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about somebody who's probably going to come across like a total douchebag and just be a bad person and da 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 da. But this is actually saying, well, hold on now. How did they get like that? Why are they doing that? So there's something here. Like, it's like the question that you have today, the answer is underneath this exploration. Okay, so let's keep going then. So now we're moving up a little bit. Okay, we're starting to accept the connection. All right, we're starting to crave a certain type of feeling. And this is where I think if you met your person in the early stages of their awakening and you saw them as an F-boy and you assumed that they were out there slanging, but then you found out that they weren't and you're like, wait, why? For me? And it's like, yeah. But it's not because in their mind you're so special. No. Unfortunately, their job in their mind in committing to this old way of thinking is to push you away, to try to make you small, to try to dim your light so that they're like, okay, no, I can't see that. So, but what I think happens is either through all this time of seeking the gratification or even through some trial and error, unfortunately, in the season they're in, but whatever it is, there's something that happens when they're like, I cannot get it up. Or I have no interest in this. Or I'm trying to go out and find somebody, but no one is enough for me. Everyone reminds me of you. Again, this makes so much sense as to why we have to meet them in this stage. I think there are people who meet their person and they just go be twin flames together. I believe that for years, but my research and the downloads I've been getting lately, very intense, by the way, like, oh, mind blowing. But it's kind of telling me something here that there are different types of twin flames, and the algorithmic or the commercialized twin flames, it's a specific symptom. Like, we end up in this place because we met our person when they weren't ready. And there's something about them, about ourselves, about reunion, about the challenges we're going to face together, about the friction that is created while we're growing together that we need to understand. That's why we seek the tarot. That's why we seek the astrology, the different information about the origins of it. So this is interesting. We're talking about a point where the divine masculine comes into some higher level awareness and even a little bit of acceptance, and yet we're still not fully divine. And you can see how far away we are from being where everyone says the divine masculines have to be. This is the only type of divine masculine that is worthy of respect, supposedly, in the twin flame space. If they don't look like this, if they are not a spotless lamb without a blemish, then they are a piece of crap. And I just don't think that's true. And I think that is going to be very limiting for divine feminines out there who are actually trying to understand their person so that things can start to flow forward. So what does this look like? What do we need to understand? Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. This is pretty cool because with the orange, the acceptance of the connection energy, the realization that There is no fire. This is making me think of Kundalini energy, which I don't really usually get from this. This is basically just my logo, my fire. You see the F and then the G, fiery grace. I don't usually get Kundalini from this, and yet is this how Kundalini is depicted? Like, is Kundalini is usually depicted like a spiral, right? I don't know why, but that's what I'm seeing from this. So, okay, this is very, very interesting. We have someone who this connection activates something within them, and it's interesting that I sensed it as like sensual time, right? Intimacy seems to be where they start to really notice something is wrong. Like the connection is just done and over with anybody else because of what they can see, which is probably what makes a person like this be willing to accept it at all. So, what's going on in their life? As the fires within them start to, and maybe that's a part of it, is in accepting the truth of who you are, then you can start to fan the flames instead of trying to put it out. All right. So what's going on in their life? Whoa, the Hierophant. Look at this big old cup. Whoa, that's a big cup. So this image is of like the producer of the show. And for some reason, this is actually making me think of you, Divine Feminine. Like this is making me think about us. And this is interesting because it's not the most positive, and yet I kind of feel like this is what they have to process in order to trust this flame that is burning inside them. And so I think what the answer is here is the divine masculines tend to see the divine feminine as someone who is trying to orchestrate something, someone who is trying to manipulate something to get their way. Now, hopefully that's not because of anything you've done. Hopefully that's just because that is what this type of person or this type of divine masculine either has been taught, trained, wants to believe to protect himself, all kinds of things. But there's something here that says, this is the divine masculine who asks you, did you put a spell on me? And you're like, what? This is the divine masculine who said, did you put a spell on me? Did you do this to me? What did you do to me? I don't understand. Okay. So I think what this is the dissonance, the back and forth where the divine masculine says, maybe there is something more to this. No. They're doing this on purpose. They've got power. They've got control. But isn't that interesting? Because I think a couple seasons before or a couple shifts before in their life, they would have been thinking about magic and Mercury and Gatorade and man-y fasting, if you guys seen all the memes and the jokes. So this is cool. What we actually have underlying when you take away the imagery and the energy we're getting from these cards, but just think about the standard meanings for the Chariot, the King of Wands, and the Hierophant. These are all cards about running into love and victory and success and triumph and connection. And these two cards are like huge marriage cards. But what do we have here? We have 1 and 5. Again, the ego keeps showing up, and Divine is showing us how it's not just this big old lump, okay? I was gonna like pick up all these little stones and then I was gonna have to put them back. But imagine me picking up all the little stones versus me picking up like one solid stone, okay? All the little stones in my hand versus one solid stone. We all would like to think that the ego is this one solid stone that needs to be broken and disappeared or whatever, when really the ego is made up of all these different emotions and experiences and fears and and some of them can make this other thing get bigger. Some of them can overshadow this thing. And Divine is working in a way that is iterative. Divine is working in a way that says, I understand how you got this way, and I'm going to untangle you like Christmas lights. And I think the divine masculine in this stage, they can feel that. And since the only thing they can really connect it to is either you or a feeling that they have that they've been running from since whatever led them to this energy, I think there's just something in them that they go back and forth. So if you have a divine masculine who will let you into their life, who will, try to be a part of yours even a little bit, but then ghosts you, runs away, pulls away, and says stuff to you like you're controlling me, and you're like, What? How? It's probably because they've convinced themselves that all feminine energy is oppressive and controlling, that all feminine energy is cunning and evil and wicked. And then there's also the parts of them that are just drawn to it. The flame within them is drawing them, is pulling them in like a moth. Like, it's crazy that they can have all this going on inside them for so long. But this is why I think it's so important for us to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, a little bit of grace, because they're going through all this stuff and they have no idea what the fuck is going on. Okay, so let's keep going. Now they start to get a little bit more confident in the fact that this is not just happening to them, that this is a part of who they are, and that their worth doesn't need to be tied to them trying to create or become some specific thing, but the true thing, the right thing. Okay. So what does that look like? We've got our yellow, and then wow. So the sands of time. Wow. I'm wondering if this is talking about divine timing, or if this is talking about that phrase, time will tell. What do we need to know here? I want to see what this is. What do we need to understand? If divine is working on their view of time, maybe they think they've got plenty of time and they've been wasting it. I don't know. Maybe the reason that there's so many different things is because this is the problem. Overall, it is their understanding of timing. Some of them may move too fast. Some of them may move too slow. Some of them may be going in the completely wrong direction, which is wasting their time, but all of it is about this. What are they doing that is wasting their time in this way? How is divine getting them to see that they need to prioritize the right things? Wow. Oh my goodness gracious. So I'm looking at this, and when I made this rune, I made these little individual, I don't know if it's actually going to show up or not, but these little individual dots. The top, it looks like sand, but in the bottom, it started to collect and it looked like little coins to me. So now we've got the Eight of Pentacles, and they're having to actually produce these coins. The Eight of Pentacles is the work card, right? The card where they typically have to do a lot and might not get a lot in return. Can I ask you guys a question? Maybe just give me a little hand raise. How many of you have a divine masculine that wants more in life, but the way that they're pursuing that is going to mean it's impossible to get more? The truth is, there are going to be some divine feminines who are in the same boat, all right? As long as we trade our time for money, we're in trouble. But that's the way that the 90% does it, right? The 10%, the 1%, they trade time for time. It's a whole thing. Look up multiple sources of income. Look up MSIs. Look up Bob Proctor. Look up paradigms. It'll change your mind a little bit. But if you are already on that and you're like, Grace, I got you. Divine is going to keep letting this person pursue work that wastes their time, because now that they're starting to awaken and get their confidence and all these things, there's a little bit of expectation behind it. They're not fully there yet, but there's still, some things in them that are like, hey, look, if I do the right thing, if I put in the work, if I do XYZ, then I should get ABC. This is what the world has told me, so it should work. And when it doesn't, and so what I'm hearing here is not like, oh, they go do work, like, okay, let's look at it like this. Maybe they pick a job that pays them $20 an hour, which is pretty good for them, and that can help them with something. But it's a job that is so overwhelming to them emotionally, spiritually, and physically that it feels like they're getting paid $2 an hour. Okay, it's like, it's not worth it. It's awful. And so that person might have to learn, hey, this is not the way. You're not even able to enjoy yourself when you leave work. So where are you going to find a way to bridge the gap where this $20 an hour job isn't making it work? Maybe you've got a divine masculine who they've decided to go work for some particular type of gig where maybe it's dangerous, or maybe it's unethical or, whatever, but it pays well. But the divine masculine, as they're doing it, the work is so awful that they question constantly, I don't know how much longer I can do this. But in the back of their mind says, you better suck it up and deal with it, because what other options do we have? And so this is interesting. Divine is presenting the divine masculine with the ability to succeed on the path that they're on, to show them that their path will never provide them with the success they truly desire. I will give you what you want. You want that $20 an hour job going over there in that other city and da 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 da. Okay, well, you're going to find out that you're not really taking the time to think about what you love, what you're passionate about, and then saying, how can I do that for a living? How can I make a lot of money doing that? Or how can I bring a lot of abundance into my world doing that? So, divine masculine, what are you really expecting? What do you really think is going to happen? And I see there is an energy here where the divine masculine is just trying, won't work, trying this, don't work, trying that, don't work, trying this, don't work, trying this, don't. And I think that when they start to enter this season, this happens for the last time, or maybe the last couple times. This is where it's different. In the past, they've been like, yeah, I just got to work hard, and over time, it'll all happen. It'll all come together. It's crazy because this kind of looks like that. Can you see this looks like that. It's creeping me out, man. But I think what's going to happen is, as they do all this, they're going to say, okay, so now that I'm more aware and more awakened, and I've experienced some of the things that I have, and I'm no longer completely in the dark, this is not right. But the question is, if they have a tendency, and it's really for these first two especially, to devote themselves completely to this feeling of, I have to see this through to the end, even if I know I made a bad decision, well, then what do you think is going to happen here? And I think this is interesting that it's kind of like this halfway point, because this is the turning point. I think either they're going to go back and they're going to say, I went along. And I saw this in Mr. Lightwork in the very early stages. Some of you guys have heard some of our stories from the beginning. In the very early stages, I would see Mr. Lightwork get kind of farther, and he would go back, and then he'd get further, and he would go back, and he would get further, and he would go back, because every time he reached a stage where the divine promise wasn't fulfilled in his timing, exactly how he wanted it and exactly in his expectations, he would immediately say, I don't believe it then. And that's because this energy and this pain and this sadness didn't go anywhere. Yeah, the divine masculine might evolve a little bit here and there, but until they're completely done with this old way of being, this darkness is what guides them forward, meaning they're constantly battling against that heaviness. And it's almost like, I'm not going to sit here and do all this catapults and acrobats and all this different stuff and still get nothing. Or they get to this point and they say, something will work. Now that I have this confidence in myself, now that I know there's more to all this, now that I'm starting to see that the way that I've been seeing things and myself has been destroying my life, maybe there's another way. If you have met your person and they have said to you, like you can kind of tell they accept a connection, you can kind of tell that there's something spiritual going on within them, and they're not so heavy into their old life, but they keep saying to you, we can get together when I make more money. We can get together in the future. We can get together. You know what I mean? If that's what they're doing, I think this is where you met them. You met them at a point where it was the turning point. It was the breaking point. And that may even be where some of you sensed the reunion vibration even this far back. You still had multiple levels to go before they were, I think this is probably the closest, right, to real reconciliation and reunion vibes. But you meeting them here, you're thinking, yeah, if they just keep going forward, but they did not keep going forward, did they? Or you probably wouldn't be here. And that's the trouble with the divine masculines, is that we have such high expectations of them, but they don't have it within themselves. So this is the picture of the divine masculine, the F-boy energy. Like, this is a good question. Why would someone who's living the life according to everyone around them or according to the world or whatever or even according to themselves, maybe, who knows? Why would they leave this? I mean, you're right. Why would they if they're not really a divine masculine and their soul is just empty? Sure. Okay. But a true divine masculine is always going to feel this version of themselves inside. Some of you have seen or listened to the New Wave Prophecy video where we talk about the dark operating system and the light operating system and how both of these are most likely inside your person. Some of you are operating with these in you right now because you don't realize what's happened. Some of you had no idea what was happening and you shut this thing down and didn't even know what you were doing. And that's how powerful you are. So I want you to think about that. We've got a divine masculine who they were almost devoid of their true nature. And yet, because it was their truth, even though the ember of the big fire kind of got all the way down to just a little burning ember, even though it was almost out, something happened, some sort of divine intervention came along to reignite, to change things. And I think that this person deep down just doesn't want to be this way. They don't want to experience things like this. But here's the thing. There is a difference between someone being in this place and saying things that sound like they're here, or whatever, versus someone being in this place and they're just a fool, just repeating stuff they see on the internet, repeating things they hear, saying what they think you want to hear. And the thing is, they're probably not just doing this to manipulate you. This person, remember, that's what they do to everybody. They walked into a Walmart, put on a smock, and are convincing everyone around them that they work there somehow. I have worked here for years. What do you mean? And everyone's like, really? Oh, okay. Again, I'm sorry, but if you've ever seen it like a YouTube video or something where someone does something like that, where they pretend, they go, oh, there's that girl that goes and pretends to work at Target, right? Have you guys seen that? There was some girl and like she went and got the outfit and no one said a word to her for the full 8-hour shift. She just had her phone kind of propped up, watching her stock shelves. People were giving her stuff to do. It was crazy. So imagine your divine masculine has gone into a place like that. And before they walked in, they said, I am not going to let this bit go. I am going to hold on to this and I will not deny. I could go to jail and I will say, I work here. If that's what they decided before they walked in, they're going to say and do whatever they need to say or do. And I do think that the difference between a divine masculine who's made that decision and just a regular boy, piece of poop head, poopy face pooper that's not supposed to be around here is so hard to tell the difference. It's almost impossible because they both have covered themselves in mud. How are you supposed to know who's who? And that's where your discernment is going to change everything for you. That's where being able to see them make these shifts and go along at believing it, expecting it, trusting that it's going to happen can show you the truth about your person. Because some people, their divine masculine, was kind of a poopy head, but they've changed so much. But all that divine feminine can see is this because it was so bad and so icky. And maybe things haven't changed enough for the divine feminine to trust it. But imagine how that feels when you're really this person now and someone sees you as this. And then there's divine masculines. Well, let's just call them people. Then there's people who we think are divine masculine and it never, nothing ever happens. Nothing ever changes with them. And they almost get worse. They get blacker and blacker. Their soul is just darker and darker. And it's just like, what in the heck is going on here? And it's like, honey, the twin flame space describes this person as if they're a divine masculine. Do you understand? They describe this person as if they're a divine masculine, this person as if they're this person, but none of these people are truly in their divinity. If we go with where's my scale? If we go with the scale of all the divine masculines, this black, that's them. This purple, that's them. So the only divine masculine truly is this. But if I said confused, unaware, neutral, toxic, unhealthy, unstable, abusive, you know what I mean? It'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So obviously we just all say, oh yeah, divine masculine. But when I describe a person who is not a divine masculine and I'm showing this energy, I'm telling you, it is almost impossible sometimes to tell the difference. And when a reader does not make that distinction, they're doing you a disservice. So make sure you're asking those questions of your readers. Hey, listen, do you sense that this is a divine masculine? Because if you do, then why aren't you telling me what divine is doing in them to combat this issue? True divine masculines are always evolving, especially after the activation point, after that catalyst moment. So, ooh, this is deep. What do we need to know as we go into the second part of this journey? All right. As we have people, or not people, but we have divine masculines who they are actually stepping so fully into the spiritual side of things that it's really hard for them to even remember who they used to be. What do we need to understand about this? So we've got our green. Okay. Oh, I love it. It's the Fool. And I love that the fact that this is 0 point, but I will also tell you, divine feminine, if this was my divine masculine, which I'm gonna be real with you, it was, there was points where Mr. Lightwork would be like, I'm not that guy anymore. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? It was like, I just couldn't see it. I didn't believe it. And it almost felt like gaslighting. Like, how are you going to tell me that you're not the person you were 2 weeks ago? How are you going to say that you weren't the person that you were last month when I talked to you about this? You know, and so I want you to understand, this is not me trying to gaslight you and tell you that this person who's still many steps away from being divine is perfect and new. But remember what we talked about? I said that it was actually at the halfway point. It was in the energy in the very beginning. We saw the death card. And I said it was at that point where the spirits lifted off them. It was at that point where they really had their ego death. And I think that's between here. I think that after all this work and all this time and things not playing out, and now they're trying to do it the right way and it still isn't. No. Now they're going to get pissed off. Now they're going to want real answers. And I think that's the point where they're going to look at their ego and they're going to say, get out of my way. I got work to do. Real work. Yes. Okay. So we have our fresh start. We have this beautiful new beginning energy coming along with the heart chakra. This is their ability to love, to experience joy, to experience peace. What is divine working on within them? And mind you, we're still talking about the F-boy. Don't get it twisted. We're still talking about that. But we're addressing this sense within them that there has to be a better way. And the ego death that has occurred here says, yes, I might still be an F-boy because I haven't had a chance to step into my new role, but not because I'm still holding on to that belief with everything I am. What does it look like? What's going on in their life? Whoa, the Four of Pentacles. Oh, it's so crazy because he's got the big circle on his head, the circle eyes. He's got this circle in his mouth. And so we go from the Eight of Pentacles, where they're doing all this work and it's chaos and there's this assembly line and da. Now it's almost like there's this sacrifice, like sacrificing to the big machine or something. But I don't know why this is giving me this weird vibe of like the divine masculine going to God or going to divine or going to see the other side, seeking answers from the universe. As the divine masculine begins to, like, it's almost like their heart was, oh, there's an icebox where my heart used to be type, it's like their heart was cold and it was broken, but something about realizing that maybe if they do the right thing, the right type of work, if they follow their heart, if they do the thing that they've been ignoring their whole life, okay, maybe things would work out. And that's kind of too good to be true. The fact that they're even thinking about it is proof enough for them something's going on here. And so that openness, the O for openness, there's something about this that says they're willing to try something different, something new. And what is that? Well, this little dude is giving the only thing he has to this giant sacrifice machine. And he's saying, listen to me. I'm going to give you my dream. I got to tell you, to see the divine masculines have that stubbornness and holding on, because that's typically the Four of Pentacles, is there's someone holding on to the pentacle really, really, really strong. But to see in this one, that he's offering it says that's the transition that has to occur. If you want to know for certain that your person is open and able to love you, talk to them about their goals and their dreams. If there is a deep anger, a well of bitterness that they are pulling from, you can kind of be certain they don't believe it's possible. They're mad. They don't trust it. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust anything to make it possible. But if you start to hear them, this is going to sound silly, but just at least have some hope, at least have some faith. And it's not like they're just talking, because I think that happens, especially in the early phase. But I think this whole early season, this unawakened space or less awakened space, is a place where we're going to hear our DMs talk a big talk. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this and that. And then they don't do it. And the next time you see them, somehow they either blame you or, you know what I mean? They take no accountability and you're like, okay. That's a very different thing than someone coming in and saying, I think I'm going to try this. Or remember when I said I didn't want to do that? You know what? I'm going to try it. There's something about that. It's like, oh, this is weird. This is different. So I think that's how you'll know. If they seem open to you, open to your connection, open to the fact that maybe life isn't so terrible, and if you see there's a willingness to sacrifice the one thing they've even put before you, oh, that's a big one. Then I think you'll start to know, oh my gosh, look, they could always backslide, but I think it's harder to backslide from here. And I also think this might even be a stopping point. Like maybe there's a good reason that this needed to be like this, because it's like, even if they backslide from here, they probably hit this spot and it turns back or something. There's something about these rows where the delineation between the two, it really does feel like a separate vibe. So I think that this is clearly divinely ordained. So the question here would be for you to ask yourself, what is it that makes me feel like my divine masculine's ability to love is small or little? And what is it that makes me feel like my divine masculine can't find peace? What is it that my divine masculine does to experience joy? And do I think that that is a good source of it? Because there really are some sources of what people would call joy that is like, that is not like, you can call that joy, but that's actually something else. And you're just happy about that feeling. But there is true joy. There is true peace. There is true love. And then there is the tainted versions of it. There's something here that says, if you can identify what it is in your divine masculine that you feel would be fulfilled within them, if this started to happen, I think that you will have a clear picture of what to look for, and you'll know it when you see it. You won't have to sit there and probably even look for it. You'll just know. You're like, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's keep going. So now we're going into blue, all right? Communication, self-expression. This is the truth. This is coming to terms with reality. What is divine sending down into this divine masculine's life? Oh, the truth about the karmic, the truth about how they have expressed themselves in a very karmic way, that the way that they communicate is filled with old karma that needs to be released. There's so much karmic, all kinds of stuff here. So I think it's interesting that divine doesn't do this first, right? Because wouldn't you want to have the karmic first instead of no? Because I think that there's a reason why. Have you guys ever heard of, you guys hear me talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but have you ever heard of Marie Kondo? You've heard of the Spark Joy method, and she goes through and she cleans the house, she declutters. Well, the thing is, she always has people do the sentimental items last. And you're like, Grace, the karmic is a sentimental. It's like, it's not always going to be about a third party. Sometimes it's just about a karmic situation or something that's just been a part of their life for a really long time. Sometimes I've even talked about with my love language where I had held on to gifts that people gave me because it was a gift and I don't get a lot of gifts. And so for me, like, if that's the way I feel loved and I don't really get a lot of it, then of course I'm going to keep everything every person has ever given me. But then the problem would be like, I don't eat chocolate. I've never liked chocolate. I've never liked peanut butter my whole life. And then someone would give me like a chocolate bar with my favorite team on the wrapper, like a big one or something. And so then I would end up putting this chocolate bar on my shelf, and I couldn't eat it because I don't eat chocolate. And then by the time I thought maybe I should have given that away so someone could actually enjoy it, it's expired. And so then I just have this like brick sitting there, and now I got ants, and it's like I'm holding on to this thing when I could have just re-gifted it at Christmas time or given it away when I got it for my birthday or whatever. And so there's something about it where even if it's not positive, we have a tendency to hold on to things. And sometimes when it comes to clearing stuff out of our life, if we try to deal with the hardest stuff first, we are not going to get rid of anything. So divine has waited until the divine masculine is willing to make sacrifices to then introduce and say, now we need to talk about this karma in your life. Please like this video, friends. It would mean a lot to me because right now mine is still showing 11. Oh, 11. Yay. This is so deep. All right. What's happening in divine masculine's life as divine is trying to get them to see reality here? Wow. The syncs in this reading and the way everything flows is so weird. So we have the Fool. And I think that this is the perfect time to say, hey, and again, if we're thinking about the Fool, he's got to go through all his stuff and can only fit a certain amount of things into this little bindle on the end of his stick, right? And so at the end of that point, when he has now been like, all right, I'm ready, I'm about to go, it seems that divine is bringing this stuff up, which might say the divine masculine doesn't keep the karmic stuff on purpose or intentionally, but that it always shows up along their path. And so divine brings divine masculine just as they've cleared things away, just as they've decided this is the life I want to live, and puts the karmic in the way, in the path, interrupts the flow. And now I think that what this does is it gives the divine masculine the opportunity to go right back into the same old karmic path. If they are not truly ready, if they're foolish, I think this may be one of the ways where, yes, they do end up going backwards. Now, if they can catch it and remember why they started, or if they can catch it and remember the work that they've done, or if they can catch it and remember that you are so pure that you couldn't possibly be trying to confuse them. And, if through each of these lessons learned, they actually got something out of it, I think that there's always this stopping point that helps redirect us in the right direction. But there's something here that says the divine masculine has to want the new beginning so bad, and also has to already kind of be on the right foot with this new beginning in order to honor what divine is requesting. And so I do think that the divine masculine is going to try to fight it. But this is what's interesting to me. It doesn't necessarily feel like they're trying to take it with them. That's what I thought for a second. It's like, no, that's not what's happening here. I think what's happening is the divine masculine is trying to avoid their karma. Oh, man. When I became estranged from my family and I finally, my dad used to dump stuff on me. He'd be like, I decluttered my office today, so I hold on to these things for me. I was my dad's storage unit, okay? It was messed up. And so I had there was a point where he wanted to be an NFL agent, so I had this 3-ring binder, this stick with the NFL's agent thing. I had a bunch of just junk, just stuff that he wasn't going to use, I had no use for. And so I had been holding on to it, and when I became estranged, it was just like, why am I doing this? And I went and I had the choice. I'm either going to go throw it away or I'm going to go drop it off. That was the truth of dealing with my karma. If I had just kept it and been like, oh, maybe when one day in a few years, he'll want this stuff back. He didn't want it in the first place. I knew it was junk when he gave it to me. And every time I saw it, I got pissed off. And yet even after, I no longer had the obligation of keeping the gift, okay, which was always just trash from my dad. There was something in me that for a little while, I stared at that damn box, y'all. I think the divine masculine avoids having to deal with stuff They're not going to just be able to have it sitting there. They're either going to have to get rid of it, like completely throw it away, or they're going to have to go drop it off and be done with it and make that clear sign that says it's over. I want my new beginning, but I don't just get to pretend the past didn't happen. Why? Because divine is not going to set a true divine masculine up for failure in their divine self. Divine is going to make sure that they're dealing with what needs to be dealt with. The trouble for the day is dealt with on the day that it is the trouble of the day. Okay. We're not going to take the trouble from this day and bring it to this day. So until the divine oh, okay. Now I get it. Oh my gosh. Now I get it. Until the divine masculine deals with this, they can't go forward. They can go back, but they'll keep ending up right here. So, geez, I just got sometimes divine has to kind of shake me a little bit. Like, are you paying attention to what you're saying? And I'm like, wait, what am I saying? And then I'll hear it in my head and be like, oh my gosh, here's what I'm seeing for this. You may not have met your divine masculine at the point where they were ready to be done with the karmic nonsense. You may have met them before, but most of you have been dealing with this energy. Okay. Most of you, this is where, oh my gosh, this even makes sense for the reunion timeline, you guys, because, oh wow, this is perfect. So if we have this spectrum and we have the partner, oh, this isn't it. This isn't the timeline. Where's the timeline? I mean, it is the timeline, but it's not showing what I want to show you. My point is though, that if most of you are meeting are dealing with the energy being stagnating or stagnant in this one space, this space is right here. And if we're looking at this, if this is the top row and then this is the bottom row, and you can kind of see the colors line up. So here we're dealing with no contact, counterpart unknown. Then we start to get into like ghosting and limited communication, and maybe even a little bit of like physical intimacy only, where that's the real F-boy, and then the limited companionship. But then as we continue forward, where do we get to? We get to denial. And to me, denial is a huge sign of undealt with karma. Ooh, it's huge. And so it's actually kind of interesting to see that this is where, this is where divine says, I am not going to let you go forward until you do what needs to be done with whatever this situation is. And many of you are dealing with people who are in karmic relationships, third parties. Again, this is not always the case for everybody, but if you are, this is why you feel so freaking close to reunion. You feel so close that you see them as a divine masculine. You can't understand why in this level of wisdom, they're still dealing with this same stuff. And it's because technically each of these phases, divine had to deal with something that was uniquely an issue in their life in order to peel a layer back so that the next thing could be unlocked. Divine could not deal with the karmic in them that soon because there was something sentimental or emotionally connected for them. And divine couldn't do it here or here or here. This was the perfect path to help unlock this in your person. But you're absolutely right to feel this sense of it's all close. We're right there. You're not that far away. I don't understand. But you're missing the fact that this is brand new to them. If they've reached this space this season, what's happening to them is they're, for the first time, in this position of I've left the complicated stuff behind. I've got my wand, funny. I've got my bindle. I've got whatever this mode of transportation is, whatever it is I've decided to move forward on. But I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first time doing this the right way. It's my first time in this new beginning aware, right? This is my first awakening. This is all my first stuff. I don't know how. So you're looking at them and they're this far along. You're like, I mean, come on, you're this far along. I don't understand. Well, it's because they just got somewhere new and then divine sprang something on them that means more to them than all the rest of the stuff. So some of you might be going, so you're saying the karmic means more to them? No, I don't think it's actually about the karmic or the situation or the car or the person or like whatever this is about. I think it's about what allowed the divine masculine to be caught up in that in the first place. So if they got caught up in a third party situation, do you know how many third party situations that I deal with where it's clearly just financial? Whether it's like so-and-so's wife needed medical help, so he married her, or so-and-so's girlfriend needed someone to help with the house, so they moved in together. Or so it's not about love, it's about contracts. You know what I mean? It's about agreements. And there's something here that says they aren't really prepared to make the best choices and decisions about those agreements until they reach this point in their ascension. But also they've been avoiding every single thing that they're being, forced to deal with. They've been avoiding. That's why divine is forcing it down their throat, forcing it in their face, forcing them to deal with it head on. Just because divine is forcing them and because they've grown and they've shifted and they're more open does not mean that they suddenly know. If you see and sense that divine is trying to show them the truth about their karmic or about a karmic situation or karmic set of circumstances or karma that they're holding on to, they may be a lot further along than you think. In fact, so many of you are already in pseudo union. But no one talks about pseudo union except me because I made it up. Because that's where me and Mr. Lightwork were for so long. We weren't in union, but we were not in separation. And it was weird. But a lot of you don't remember, or because you haven't taken the reunion journey toolkit assessment, so you wouldn't know this about yourself. But denial and pseudo union are basically the same energy. It's just that one overlaps into separation and the other one overlaps into reunion. But it's the same thing. And so when I was first with Mr. Lightwork, after the denial, and we were like officially together, but still not like spiritually aligned together, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of confusion. And that is, oh, wow, this is deep. That is exactly when all Mr. Lightwork's karma that he'd been hiding from me, that he didn't want me to know about because he was so ashamed and so embarrassed, and he knew it was going to bite him. He knew it was going to come back to bite him. That's when it all started, is when he really started to say, okay, I want to really be with you. Like, I'm going to do it. And I've learned when a person tells you, I got a lot of baggage, you got to listen to them. And many of your divine masculines have a lot of baggage. And I think many of you have been taught and trained to say they should just leave it all behind, just walk away and ride on. But this is saying they can't. Divine's not going to let this come back and bite you. They need to deal with their poop, not you. You're not their mom. You don't clean up poop. We're not elderly. So, okay, let's look at this. What else do we need to understand? Once the divine masculine has dealt with karmic, okay, they've dealt with the requirements for their new beginning, then what? What is divine working on in them? Oh, I love this. There's such a alignment. It's like true love versus the karmic. This, 1 versus 0. We've got the flame, the individual flame, and then the yin yang, the two, the balance together. And this is with our indigo, okay? Let me put this way. This is with our vision, all right? Divine helping them to see. So first they had to see the truth about you before they could see the truth about themselves and divine and everything else, and make good decisions because of that. Before they could really tap into their intuition, they had to clear all this stuff out. So divine is now getting them to make good decisions that are going to help them get from denial and pseudo union and confusion. Because, the last thing I was supposed to say to you, and I just realized as I was saying this, you know why I thought it was so interesting when I was like talking about this denial with the karmic and the fool, because this is where the dark night of the soul happens. And this is where they're the wanderer. And the thing that's going to help to heal them when they're in this place is informing them of who they are, of what's really going on, all the stuff that before this, they honestly wouldn't even have listened to because they'd been trained to go against everything you were. Remember from the beginning? Oh, this reading is deep. So now divine can start to bring them out of the dark night. Okay. We can not just be aware in spirit, but this is where we start to, that's actually kind of messed up though. This is where we start to see the awareness in the physical. Oh gosh, no. But you know what? It kind of makes sense. Karma is blocking them from being able to see how to integrate. Karma gets so big. It's like a big old weed bush that just like grows over everything. And you don't even realize you've got this beautiful garden underneath it because it's just completely covering and trying to kill it, you know? Oh, that's deep. Okay. Whew, sheesh. So, what's happening in divine masculine's life? What are they doing to try to avoid this, but also it perfectly aligns with the divine plan? Wow, 10 of Pentacles. Okay. This is interesting to me because it's like, huh. It's making me think about these people in the 8 and the 4 of Pentacles. It's making me think this is this little dark guy from the Chariot. It's like all the different things that the divine masculine was doing to try to create this world. Divine says you cannot have it. And I love that we've got like these little diamond, or not diamond, but pentacles kind of in there. It's making me think it's the same thing. It's like you don't get to have your dream. You don't get to have your goal until you have a vision for it, until you know what you're moving towards. I'm not going to let you just go forward like this anymore. Just saying, I just know I want to be this, or I just know I want to do that. You are smarter than that, divine masculine. You are better than that. You're going to have to get very clear. What does it mean? What does it look like? And most importantly, who do you need to be and who do you need in your life to make sure you stay that person and that this is all possible? Which takes us back to the beginning where divine told us as divine feminines, when we started this reading off with a message for us that said we're going to work backwards from the person your person needs to be when you guys are together in blissful union years and years. We're talking about off of this, okay? If this is the partner spectrum, and this is like before you ever knew about twin flames over here, then after you enter blissful union, there's this whole world. There's this whole lifetime that you guys get to spend together. And so once you reach that point, what is life like? What are you feeling? What does it look like to exist as a happy person in that state of being? How did you get there? All those kinds of questions. Divine was making sure that that was answered for us as a couple, us as individuals, like within the couple. And now Divine is saying, okay, it's your turn, divine masculine. What is it that you want and why? Get very, very clear about it. What can you see? Because here's the beauty of it. Once, this is so crazy. Once they start to have a clear vision of what it takes to make this happen, who do you think divine is going to point them to? The thing the divine masculine wants to do, the magic, there is someone on the other side of this. What do they always say? Behind every good man or behind every great man or successful man is a powerful woman or a woman, something, you know? And so my point here isn't the man and the woman, blah, blah, blah. My point is the divine masculine is going to now, I think, start to hear and see the things that are on the other side of the spectrum they've been existing under. If they've been believing, oh, you know, the whole like, take my wife, please. Oh, my wife is such a nag. Like, you know, that kind of Western approach to just, I hate my wife. Isn't that so funny? Kiki, ha ha, that I find completely ridiculous and I'm over it. Like, I don't think it's cute. Well, I kind of feel like the divine masculine is going to go from that way of thinking to, I am the most blessed person in the world to have found a good wife, you know, all that kind of stuff is going to come along with it. A loyal wife, that's all you need, da, 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 da. And so there's something about this that feels like if they don't get a clear picture of who they need to be on the other side of this, not just them standing there with their fancy car, their fancy boat or their house or whatever it is that they wanted, but actually what would make that life enjoyable? They've been there, done all the hard work stuff, and it didn't feel good, and there was no satisfaction in it. Divine is now saying, if you could have a perfect life, if you could have a dream life, what would it be? Define it. And this is important because the way that you will know, and this is the big warning that I have to give everybody very, very constantly. When your divine masculine is finally ready, they're like ready to go and they're almost impatient, and it can be annoying because it's like, how dare you make me wait 7 years and now you want to show up and say, let's go. I started doing something else 3 years ago, buddy, you know? So this is definitely a tough energy. I have had to work with divine feminines for the past few years to help them break their walls down. They have put up so many barriers. And it's unfortunately most of the time when I talk about it and I say, well, where's that come from? And where's that come from? It's coming from people on the internet. And it's not always just like, oh, tarot readers. Like obviously we're watching tarot. Okay, fine. But sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm a part of these groups on Facebook where everybody hates men, or I'm a part of these groups or these I follow these pages on IG where all they talk about is like the psychology of toxic masculinity. And so I just couldn't see past this figure I had created. And so what ends up happening is the same things that the divine masculines were doing to us in the beginning, kind of painting this picture of like, oh, take my wife, like the annoying feminine whatever. We start to do that to them if we're not careful what we're listening to, what we're consuming, what we're believing, if we're not kind of catching ourselves. And so when this person comes in, and if your person very clearly has a vision, if they very clearly are like ready and they want to change things, and it just sounds like bullshit. Like it just sounds, maybe they've even said it before. All right. And now you kind of got to test and see, like, where are you actually at? I just want you to know something. The unaware, the dark night of the soul does not happen back here. The dark night of the soul happens close to union. The confused divine masculine is fearful and indecisive. And what was this card about? See, that's how you know. That's how you know. This card was about the third eye chakra, which is about decision making. It's about intuition and wisdom. And the way that you help this person heal is you enlighten them. This person is coming to you when they're ready, and they may not be fully there, and them having questions or not being certain about every little thing could be a huge red flag to you if all you're watching is red flag versus green flag videos. You know what I'm saying? Like once you start to internalize that kind of stuff all the time, it can really throw you off. All right. And so I want you to consider this. If you can, what do you think needed to change about your divine masculine's vision? And some of you will say they just needed to include me in it. I don't care what they want to do. I'll support them. I know, that's fine. So now you have your answer. And if they come to you and they say to you, I have this vision and this is where you are and da, 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 da. Well, then you've got it. You've got it. You've got to at least give it a try. You can have some walls and some boundaries up, but not so many that you're going to make this person who is very new to this flow think, oh, I've hurt them too bad. I guess it's over, and that is what I have spent the last few years doing, helping divine feminines not sabotage their own union. It's sad, but it's really sad. The amount of divine feminines who don't know that they're being taught to hate their person. Oh, sorry. It makes me so upset every time. I'm not doing this today. Not starting this today. Blah, 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 blah. So, your person will be able to make better decisions once they know what they're going towards. And they won't be able to know what they're actually going towards until divine has set certain things in motion. All right. Blech. Okay. So last card. Oh, let me do this because I'm on call today. Oh, do I still have it? Paste. Oh, no, it's not going to work. All right. I'm on call today. So if you're interested in talking, I do still have a few sessions left through the evening. I'm also on call this Wednesday. But if you just want to book a session at your leisure, if you need to kind of schedule something specific, you can always just check out my website. I have a flash sale going on. So if you're looking for a reading directly after this, I usually take a little bit of a break just to clear my mind, okay, and clear the energy. But I'm going to be doing some readings and clearing my booking list. So if you are interested in either talking today or getting your reading today, then please do go ahead and check out my website, thefierygrace.com. All right, final card. Now, y'all, let me just take a second. Okay. It's the freaking symbol for masculine in the space with the freaking white, the pure masculine, the crowning. Okay, this is so cool. Hold on, Grace. Hold on, because I want to see the card so bad, but I got to take a second to say, okay, so set it up, Grace. So we've got in the final position, we've gone from black to, all the way through the chakras. Basically, this is meant to represent the crown chakra. I know it's not violet, but I felt it was the right thing. We got all the way here, and at the point where this person is ready to enter into their divine self, they're probably receiving their like final test before they can really make that leap. What divine is working on in them is what is their divine masculine. But you know what I saw? I looked at this and I thought, oh my goodness, I did not know that this has become so chipped. When I first made it, it was actually like pointed and there were no errors. It was perfect. And as I said that in my head, I heard, and that's exactly what we're working on. The divine masculine has this picture of what a perfect divine masculine, I don't know if that's what they would call it, right? But whatever their vision of what we would see as a divine masculine, they're looking from the other perspective, whatever they would call that, they have a very specific picture of it. And I'm going to warn you, divine feminine, this might be a message for you too, darling. Do you also think, if my divine masculine came in and they didn't have this perfect straight line and like I have issues. You guys see me try to like fix and alter the straightness of the video constantly. I never get it right. It always irritates me, especially if I have to like edit it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crooked. And it's so this really, really bothers me. And I have had to learn that as someone who has hyperactive ADHD, trauma-induced OCD, possibly even has high functioning autism and needs things to be a certain way, that is probably going to reflect in the way that I treat my person. That's probably going to reflect in the way that I see what a perfect masculine would look like. If I'm having that problem, baby, you are probably having that problem. Maybe you're better than me. Good for you. Help us understand what to do. But if you're like, oh crap, I never thought of that. I never considered it. Or I just kind of like let it sit for a second and then let it slip right back out. This is huge. This is why I do the activities I do. And I'm going to tell you guys now, I am going to go ahead and transition this channel completely back to a love letter channel. I talked to YouTube. I asked them why they're not promoting my videos. They told me that there's no such thing as being shadow banned. That's not real. And they said that it's because you guys don't want to see my videos. That they straight up said it is a reflection of your audience. It is not a reflection of you. You need to match your audience. What videos do well? Only my love letters. So I won't be doing very many readings anymore, only love letters and Mr. Lightworks love letters. On occasion, if I feel called, I may do some here, but I will probably be doing regular readings and stuff like that on Awakening Divine moving forward. Okay. If you're like, what is that? If you go to my channel, Awakening Divine, how will you? Oh, actually, I guess you can. This is what Awakening Divine looks like. Okay. So if you just type at Awakening Divine all together like that, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, look, you can, if you type that in, it'll take you to there. Moving forward, I'm going to be doing all my videos, all my lives and stuff like that on here. But right now, they're not going to show you that until I hit 1,000 subscribers. They're not going to show more than 25 people per video when I go live. Okay. So, and they're not going to let you in if you're not subscribed. If you don't believe me, just look it up. Because I know sometimes people are like, Grace, you sound like you're not telling the truth. It's like, I don't know why you guys are so skeptical of everybody on the internet, but I just look it up. It's easy to Google everything I say most of the time. So if you're interested in seeing lives like this, getting even divine feminine readings, getting other kinds of insights, I just want to let you guys know that over the next few months, we'll be completely transitioning out of that in order to make sure that the important messages that are coming through for people are actually reaching them. Because the number of people who I've had that don't even think we post and and they're like, where have you been? Oh, you're back. And I'm like, we have not missed a full week of posting in like 2 years. So just want to let you guys know what's going on. So check on this, ask yourself, what is it that I want? Because for years, I've been trying to get everybody to sit down and write down all the things. I'm going to do it very fast because I know people don't like my activities, but I know some of you are like, no, don't stop coaching, please. On a piece of paper, I want you to write down everything your divine masculine has ever done that's pissed you off. Everything. Just get it out, okay? And look at it. And then I want you to take all of that, and on another sheet of paper, I want you to write the opposite. All right. So they ghosted me. So on the other page, and I actually did this. This is the thing. Everything I've recommended, it's because I did it and then it worked and I got into union. And I have found out from divine directly that I accessed, remember I used to say I'm in the realm of synchronicity? Y'all, when I tell you the messages I've gotten about everything, you guys are going to be blown away when you start to understand like what we are actually here to do. I found out that there is an accelerated pathway. I found out that that's why I was directed to teach about certain stuff this whole time. And so when I give these activities out, they are a part of that accelerated pathway. If you want to collapse this timeline of separation you've been on and actually enter into the reunion timeline for you, then you have to do the things that we've talked about here. If you don't, and you just keep watching everybody else's readings, then babe, you're going to keep just watching readings. And I want to keep it real with you. I got into union because I quit. I said, I can't do this. It's going to drive me crazy. I almost lost myself the 3 months that I was watching tarot. I started doing this other stuff instead. You ready? One of the things that I did was I wrote down all the stuff Mr. Lightwork had done that hurt me. And then on the next page, one of the things that he had done was he had ghosted me. And so I said, my husband, my future husband, contacts me often and keeps up with me throughout the day. And I started everything he had ever done. I went through and I did that list. And then ignoring him for a second and just thinking back to all the things that I really wanted in a partner. And again, some of you have heard me say this before. It might have been years since I've talked about it, but you've heard me tell this specific affirmation before and how amazing it worked. It was in less than 1 month after I wrote this affirmation that Mr. Lightwork came around and was like, hey, I want to be with you. So y'all are not ready for the tools and the stuff that I have. Y'all, when we say we're ready to do the work, y'all are not ready, because I've been saying it for years. And when I ask people on the phone, like, oh, you know this thing? I'm like, oh yeah, I saw you do that. And I said, did you do it? Oh no. And then they go and do it and they get contacted. When I tell you, I'm so tired of like downplaying my own truth because random people on the internet are like, I don't believe you. Okay, well, keep going the way you've been going. I'm done. I'm so over it. If you take the time to write down all the things you don't like and then go opposite, and then write down all the stuff that you do want, you will be left with this beautiful affirmation / manifestation tool of everything you could ever want from your person, from your true person. Now, the irony was when I first wrote this out, think about what I'm saying. I wrote down everything I wanted Mr. Lightwork to do by thinking about what he wasn't capable of. And then what I thought he wasn't capable of. And then when I wrote it on the other paper and I saw this list of this person that clearly wasn't Mr. Lightwork because it was all the opposite behaviors of him, I was devastated. I can see why someone wouldn't want to do that, because it's like, no, he can't, oh man. And so I was just like so hurt and so upset. But then I was reading the affirmation and I was reminding myself, like, I deserve this. I deserve someone who can meet me where I am. And I started to read it every day. I recorded it. I listened to it. And I was like, yes, I deserve this kind of person. Not only a month later, because that was in April of 2018. Yes, that was April of 2018. A month later, by May 12th of 2018, Mr. Lightwork and I spent our first day together, like outside of, okay. And we've been inseparable ever since. And I'm telling you right now, whenever someone does this activity, it's almost like they're reprogramming their brain, which then reprograms the signal they're sending out to the universe. And instead of just all this noise and confusion, there is this very direct signal that says, this is what I want. And by January, so about 7 months later, by January, Mr. Lightwork had fulfilled more than half the list. And it was the stuff he'd been doing wrong. I didn't ever show him the list and be like, this is what I want you to be. I hid the list because I was like, I don't want to look at this anymore. Now that me and him are kind of together, I don't want to look at all the things he's not going to do for See, I can sit here and admit to people when I was in denial, when I was playing myself, when I was avoiding things. But when I finally said enough is enough, and I told Mr. Lightwork in January, and I noticed he had already, had all these different things. When I finally put my foot down and said, I'm done, I'm not going to do this anymore. I want an emperor. I don't want whatever this is. By the following year, Mr. Lightwork was every single thing except one on that list. One of the things I listed on the top was he needs to be a man of God. And by the following year, without me trying, I hid in my prayer closet. Mr. Lightwork did not have to worry about me Bible thumping him, just like y'all don't. By the following year, Mr. Lightwork had now become a Christian, and every single thing on my list was fulfilled in under 2 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the insanity of all that? Of sitting down and writing an affirmation going against the very behavior that someone is showing you, and somehow they show up, and without you having to ever tell them, they just start doing all the things. It doesn't even make any sense, and yet it does. It does when you've been doing this long enough. It does when you have a connection with divine and you know what's up. So if you want, I would hope you do want this, please take the time to write down all the stuff your divine masculine ever did that was the poopest of poop. All of it. Get it out. Okay? And then translate that. So what do you want them to do? Okay, good. Add in a few more things that are yours. You're going to see immediate results within yourself. But also, I guarantee you something within a month is going to show up, and you're going to be like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? But you can't just do the activity and then forget about it. You need to sit with it, manifesting. You need to affirm it, and you need to let the universe know, I want this now, exactly this thing. Why? Why do you need to know this right now? Why is it so important for you to get on the ball in this way? I'm done. Y'all, you know, this is why, oh my gosh. Y'all, you want to know what the card is? Of course we want to know what the card is, Grace. Yeah, it's the Emperor. And look down there. Look down there at the little spotlight on the little baby fool. Yes. When I tell you we've got the Emperor with the divine masculine, which guess what? In this, just like this is the Lovers, this is the Emperor. Do you understand? This is insane. We're talking about a card of ego death, and you've got the divine masculine this is to me like his brain, like divine masculine conversing with the ringleader. This to me is the ego, okay? Saying, look, if you just let me lead, just put me on as your mask, not knowing that this just leads to death, which, hello. I get so upset sometimes because it's like, everyone's like, well, I'm not in union. I don't believe you. And it's like, I could help you get there. And I've been downplaying it, and I've been hiding my sales and not wanting to talk about money and all this different stuff for what? Just so more people could not be in union? Why did I let this happen? Oh, hell nah. Y'all got me messed up. Not y'all, but y'all, you get it. Okay. So, this is crazy. You know what's happening? Is the divine masculine is being shown. I know that you're not the big person that you want to be. I know that you don't have this amazing spotlight. I know that you're not there yet, but you've got to start to act like it. And this is that energy of fake it till you make it. And you know what? A lot of us don't want to deal with what we consider a fake divine masculine, but fake it till you make it is something that I think is more nuanced than that. All right. It's one thing if you're the crown princess of Shinovia and you need to walk feminine, talk feminine, act like the queen that you were going to be. It's like, well, I am not that person. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that's a Princess Diaries reference if you don't get it. If you like randomly got called and told you were a princess somewhere and you didn't know what you were doing, you faking it to make it would not make you a fake princess. You're a real princess. You're just having to figure your way through. This person is a real divine masculine. This person deserves the respect that you believe you deserve for all the work you've done to become the empress in this position. The divine feminine could have their own reading with all these same positions, sweetheart. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget your challenges. There's something about this space that really encourages a haughty, um, just full of yourself kind of attitude. And I understand that confidence that we want to have, but there's a difference between confidence and haughtiness. And there's something here that I feel like a lot of us in this tribe probably don't deal with it as much. But still, depending on what we're watching, depending on what we're consuming in this world, we might look at this and go, oh, well, I guess I got to wait for them to go through. And it's like, well, is that really what divine is saying to you? Is that really all you think about this? All right, let's close this reading out. What do you need to know overall about this divine masculine? Two of Cups. There is a guardian angel watching over this person and making sure that they don't get lost in their emotions or in their fear of their emotions, in their need to escape the truth of who they are. There is someone bigger than us, bigger than you, bigger than me, right? Bigger than all of us that wants twin flames to succeed. And there's also someone bigger than your person who knows their true nature. And this could be their own true inner self, right? This could be their inner masculine that is offering up this magic, but it could also be some wonderful guardian angel that I think that there's a little bit of jealousy in us sometimes, like we want to be everything for our person. Once we've met them, we almost feel like because they don't see the connection immediately, it's like we have to prove ourselves or something, like, come on, let me show you. Like, I promise if you let me into your life, I could fix everything. And again, we may not go in with that at first, but after a while, after all the excuses, and so we're like, okay, we're trying to work with the excuses. We're like, okay, so you're saying that you want to get wealthy. So like, I can help with that. Like, if you're saying we can't be together because of money, like I have money, like, we're doing all this different stuff and we don't realize we're just dealing with someone who is extremely childish, who's extremely immature, who's running from their purpose, and we're their purpose. We're a part of that. So they're running from us. And if we can see it from the divine standpoint, it's not as overwhelming. And we also can trust that they are being assisted and it doesn't always have to be from us. Okay. What are we missing? Oh, the sun. I want to read this. Let's read the sun, okay? If you made it to the end of this video, please like it before you leave. Oh, it opened right to the Two of Cups. Oftentimes, we think we need to be physically in the presence of someone to feel them. This belief can block your ability to receive. It can close your heart and put conditions around how others can experience you and your energy. This means your cup is rarely overflowing and oftentimes empty. When the Two of Cups can't flow, it means that you have a serious kink in your abundance hose. Living a heart-centered life is not an act. It is not something we do for the sake of onlookers. Rather, it is an intimate way of engaging with the people in our lives. So stop looking for others to praise and acknowledge you, and instead just focus on keeping your heart open and receive. Divine, I think that you. And I think that lately I'm having this really strong feeling to talk about how the collective is being led by a lot of people who their views of union are a little bit twisted. Channels like this one are very rare in the twin flame space, but what's more common is channels who have man haters running them, who have people who like don't believe in reunion this lifetime running them. There's all that kind of stuff is going on. And so it's very, very, very hard to be in this space and maintain that openness and love. Many of those people are encouraging us to block our divine masculines. I encourage it from time to time in context in readings, but not just like, just block them, just be done. A lot of people encourage and say it's not going to happen this lifetime, just move on, but you're never going to be able to get away from them and all this stuff that's very, very confusing and not accurate. There's a lot of people promoting things that can make us feel like, you know what? I'm just going to shut you down. And I think that that's because they know that's the best way for you to be stuck with them instead of getting into union. If I can get you to hate your divine masculine or to block them or to shut them down or whatever, then I can talk for them instead of them, right? I'll just do readings and tell you what they're saying and thinking, and you'll never hear from them again because I made you block them 6 years ago and told you don't unblock them. They'll find a way around that. Meanwhile, your divine masculine grew into this wise, amazing being and realized, oh, you know what? If I'm blocked, I should respect the person and not reach out. See, that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say we need to be able to go through every situation in context and provide the best advice. One of the worst things in the world to me, because my father used to do this to me, and so it's a huge trigger for me, is when someone comes into a situation, hears you say 3 or 4 things, and then gives you advice. Oh, well, you should try this. Didn't ask you a single question, didn't repeat back the situation to make sure they had a full understanding, just started talking and giving advice because they were so convinced that anything they said was better than anything you could figure out on your own, or that anything they said would easily apply to your situation because they're just so wise and so brilliant. When really, they're either giving terrible advice, advice that wouldn't fit, that doesn't make sense, or they're just hurting you because you're sensing that they clearly don't care about you. I am not that person. I do recommend, hey, let's set up a session, let's set up a call, whatever. But if you can't do that, even leave a question in the chat, in the comments, so I can try to answer it in another reading. But I don't want to sit here and tell you, don't ever talk to your person again, or even like, oh, call them today. Because guess what? You know who's going to take that and run with it? The people who have restraining orders. Like, I'm serious. It's very, very difficult to be in this space with all the different voices that are telling divine feminines a million different things to do. And I think every divine feminine needs to make sure that they're going within for that certainty. And then they know exactly what it is that they need help with when they're going into the outside. Because these individuals here have ulterior motives. We have to keep this in the back of our mind, friend. Why would anyone encourage us to behave in a way that really cultivates hatred or bitterness or contempt between us and our person? How is that helpful or positive along the journey? And so many of you here are probably going to say, well, it's not, Grace, I know. But my question to you is then why is that so much of the tarot sphere? You know what I'm saying? I think it's very, very important for us to not get caught up in the typical tarot confusion, not just twin flame, but all the tarot love confusion, and to actually sit back and say, my life and my purpose actually depends on me coming into this reunion. Not everyone else is a twin flame, so they don't get that I have to exist in unconditional love, because if I don't, my entire future and my entire purpose is thrown off. So I have to work that much harder. I don't get the ease of just being like, yeah, you know what, you're right. F all men or F all women, that's easy. That's an easy road. It's an easy road that's going to take you to a life of misery. But at the same time, it does just feel better for a while. But it's really, really hard to continue to buckle down and sit through something, especially depending on how bad your person was when they were in this space and they just believe their life's already over. Let's read this. Challenger. Just as the sun can give life, it can also take it away. It can dry up waterways and stop rivers and streams from flowing. It can burn plants, trees, and food. Its heat can make it unbearable to breathe and to be outside for long periods of time. In this aspect, the sun is a suffocating presence, feeling more like a punisher than a joyful liberator. Life can seem hard when the sun is out of power. Your energy may be lacking, your focus may be waning, and you may have lost hope when you had the sun. You may have lost the hope you had when the sun first peeked through the storm clouds. When the energy of the sun turns upside down, it is best to find somewhere to hunker down and wait for the intensity to wane. So that is the reversal of the sun. And I think that says that's what the divine masculines have been doing. That's what many of our divine masculines have felt was their best option. Life had become so oppressive, so stressed out, so overwhelming for them that the best thing they could do was enter into this space of, you know what? I give up. I'm just going to stay where I'm at and deal with it. And I think that makes a lot of sense for how someone could believe that and just give up. But let's look at the positive. The sun fills the stage. Here, can I read like this and you can see it? The sun fills the stage. Sparks fly from it and light up the space between the curtain and the crowd. The performers have changed into birds as they move through their routine of the solar dance. Energy, light, and heat fill the theater. The sun is something we experience with all our senses. We can feel it, we can taste it in our food, we can hear it as the birds get up to it in the morning. We see it as the light creeping through our blinds. It touches us, warming our skin and giving life to all living things on the planet. It is a powerful force that permeates all that we do, all that we are, and all that we experience. It is currently illuminating your life, spreading its power throughout your day, and pushing its light into the dark corners of your experience. Embrace it and let it in. And I think that this is the major difference between a divine masculine and I don't know what you would call this, an undivine, a non-divine. Because this isn't just about being unawakened. I'm not talking about someone who's a divine masculine and has not yet begun to awaken. I'm talking about someone who's not a divine masculine. I think that the divine masculines may be pushed to give up, but that is then where, when they surrender, divine says, okay, now let me show you what to do. Now let me show you the beauty of it after you're not fighting it anymore, running from it anymore. But I think that the person who is not truly divine and is not meant to be in our life, or who's just been toying with us, that's all they can really do, is just stop and hide and run and hide and stop and hide and ghost and hide. That's it. That's what they do. Every time they make a mistake, they know they're not going to fix it. So they run. They've learned, oh, let me give you some space so you'll stop being mad at me, and then I can come in and things will be different. They figured it out. These people know how to manipulate you. They know how to toy with you. And your job is to discern, is my divine masculine actually as bad as he's being presented as, or they're being presented as? Or is my person further along than I even considered, given the fact that I really haven't had to deal with a lot of this energy? It's really just been this or this or this, and what does that mean? Because here's the truth. If you are in energy signature 1, then yeah, I mean, it would make sense that this is all you deal with. It would make sense that you might even start to hate your person if you guys were like stuck there for that long. But you and your divine masculine do not have to be in the same energy signature. So just because they're acting like that doesn't mean you have to be there. And then if you're in energy signature 2, which is kind of more like, maybe these kind of like energies here, if you're a little bit further in and maybe even starting to get to like pseudo union, there can be some frustration, I think. It's like, how do I deal with this person? We're so close and yet so far, it seems. And I think that it's important for you to be able to say, wait a minute, if we're just like 1 or 2 steps away from union, then why don't I just go ahead and walk into it and see what happens instead of trying to wait for them? If you're in energy signature 3, and you're dealing with a divine masculine who's like maybe backsliding back and forth between here because they just maybe they still have this like, okay. Remember, it's so funny that I missed it because I was like talking about something else for so long that, remember, we talked about this not being perfect. And then he's like, I'm only this, like, I'll never be this, and it's like, so I think that there's something here that says the reason they might backslide is because it's hard for them to believe that they're actually that special, that they're actually that amazing, that they're actually able to be with you, that they're equal to you. Like, all these different things could stop them from saying, yes, let me keep going forward. But all of this is kind of expected as we grow, as we get better, as we come into union. And I just think that there's a lot of confusion in the twin flame space because there has not been someone like me. I've been researching for years. I've done surveys, like massive surveys. Like, literally, I am the only person who's ever done a longitudinal study of the twin flame collective. Did you guys know that? If you're new here, you're like, where you did? But if you've been around long enough, you've taken part in that study and you've seen the data, you've seen the results. I have the entire Searching for Truth series to help the twin flames see everything that is that they need to know about what the origins are, the myths, what the lifestyle looks like, the truth. I go over all the survey results and the changes. Like, I have done everything I can to answer the questions that originally led you here. But what happened to me is the same thing that probably happened to you. I went on the internet. I was looking for answers. I found a couple videos that were kind of contradictory and vague. And otherwise, the only other thing for me was tarot readings. And so I started watching tarot readings, and they confused me even more because everything was either all over the place, or if I did find somebody who might have been kind of good at what they were doing and accurate, all it showed me was the ups and downs and the back and forth of where my divine masculine was. And I never really could figure out, what did that mean for me? I want to help you figure that out. So I hope that you will consider joining this channel. I hope you'll consider checking out Awakening Divine, where I'm going to end up doing more of my lives and things over there moving forward, because there is something strange going on here. The number of people that are still in the space that are not seeing change, but then when we ask, like, what are you doing? When you say you've done your work, let's talk about your work. And then they go, oh, hold on now. What do you mean? you know? So it's like, I think that it's unfair of us to be like, you need to do your work, but then not tell you what the work is. But I have been trying to make sure you know what the work is for years. And it seems like because it's interjected in a tarot reading that it's like, well, I didn't come here for that. I came here to watch, not work. So I've got to figure out a way to help people get to where I've gotten to. I've got to help people access this 4D timeline that I've been on this whole time. Because it's like, how am I supposed to help you, but not force you, but not make you, but then your DM and everything's confusing you. But what am I supposed to do? So I don't know how this is going to work yet. Being directed to make sure that my channel is on point, but also being directed to make sure that divine feminines out there are learning the truth about all this. Yeah, I am a little bit confused about how to approach it. So if you listened all the way to the end and you've got any advice for me about what works and what doesn't work, what has helped you even with other readers, what has given you a sense of certainty and truth, what has helped you move forward versus what makes you feel like you've backslidden. I want to figure out what it is that we're missing, because after doing this for this many years and knowing I can tell you the exact path forward and it works, but knowing that 99% of the people I talk to go, it's okay. But they're desperate. And I'm not just like, oh, I'm so desperate for my person. No, like they are not, it's not just about their person. As the years, weeks, days, whatever go on, they become desperate for like just the truth about life at this point, because it's like, this doesn't even, what's going on here? And I'm like, okay, it's right here. And they're like, oh, nah. So it's like, I must be saying it wrong, right? I'm doing something wrong if I'm telling you, and anyone who does it, it works. And I'm like, every time it happens, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. If you do it, it works. So please let me know how I can help bridge that gap for you. Let me know if you've been doing the work, right? What does that mean to you? Like what's your work? Name that. And I'm not talking about your light work. I'm talking about the work to be able to deal with this stuff. I want to see if there's something maybe I'm doing wrong or I'm not being clear about, or if there's something maybe I didn't think to address. Okay. So please let me know. All right. If you made it all the way to the end. Uh-oh. Did it? Is it not? Seems like it's okay. Somebody said it's on loop. Are you talking to me? Is it my video? I can't really tell. No, it doesn't look like it. So it's really interesting that you say that, because it sounds like you're in energy signature 1. That's where the loop is. So I hope, how long have you been here? I hope you're not in energy signature 1, my friend. Because I feel like the only people who should be in energy signature 1 who are here on this channel are people who have never seen my channel before. But I feel like the moment you watch one of my readings truly, not a love letter, but one of these readings truly, I think you naturally get brought into energy signature 2 at least. And if you're in energy signature 3, I think the only reason you're sticking around is because maybe you're missing out on what comes next. Like, I think you think that's the end. I got to figure this out. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get going. I'm like super hot. This reading like overwhelmed me a little bit. I love you. Oh, again, did I already do this? I feel like I did now. If you want to work together, thefierygrace.com, you can check out the links. And if you have any curiosity about whether or not you have some of these issues, okay, whether it's like maybe somebody hijacked your journey, you're wondering if maybe your love language and separation might be part of the problem. Like, I have some quizzes that I've created. They're free quizzes to kind of help get information. I don't want people to always have to talk to me directly. And because what if it's like 2:00 in the morning and I'm not awake and you need to talk to me? Well, what if you could take this quiz and it could tell you what I would probably analyze, right? If you gave me the information, I would say, oh, then it must be this. If I can help you with that, then I'm going to make that, right? So far I only have about I have 4 quizzes. But I think they're really important. But the main one is if you want to know what energy signature you're in, let me see if I can get you that really quick, guys. So if you go to my website and you click the menu and you click search, you can actually type in signature and search for signature, and you'll see, oh wait, it's not. Where did it go? Did I take it down or something? Oh, maybe it's not called that, energy. Are you for real? What if I type in quiz? What did I call it? See, this is the problem. I mean, you calling stuff the wrong stuff. Okay, I'm always going to just take you there. If you type in quiz, it'll take you to the page that has all the quizzes. But there's your twin flame phase, so that's how you'll know which energy signature you're in. Your ascension style, so you know what it is that at this time will serve you best in getting information about all this. Your separation love language, so that you can figure out why some people are fine on the journey, but some people aren't. And I believe it has something to do with the love language. And then the hijack is someone trying to make you hate your twin flame. That's what these 4 quizzes are. So if you go to my website, thefierygrace.com, and you just go up here and you type quiz, scroll down, you'll see ascent quizzes and assessments. Okay, friends? All right. I'll try to make sure I just start linking that. Maybe that's what I'll work on today. But if you need me, let me know. Again, I do have some calls. Hopefully no one's ordered one because I'm definitely still on the phone or on the reading right now. I do have some calls today, and I do have a little bit of time to do a few readings today as well. So if you need me, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. And we should have a video coming out tonight. So be sure to be on the lookout. I'll talk to you later. Love you.